السلام عليكم ورحمة الله أعزائي طلبة المرحلة الرابعة قسم اللغة الإنجليزية. In this lecture we are going to talk about Concord. So starting with the definition of Concord, or what we call it as agreement, in the most general terms, Concord is a relation between two elements such that they match one another in terms of some grammatical feature. So concord means that we have an agreement or a relationship between two elements within the sentence. And this relationship is in three types, or what we call them as the types of concord. In English, we have three types of concord, which are the concord of number, whether singular or plural, the concord of person, first, second, and third person, and finally the concord of gender, whether feminine or masculine. So these are the types of concord. So whenever we are going to talk about the idea of concord, we should take in our consideration these three types. And here we have a very important note to be considered, which is that the proximity and notional concords are only grammatical features or cases that affect applying the notion of concord. So proximity and notional concord are cases that affect the applying the concord of the sentence. Subject-verb concord. The most important type of concord in English is the concord of number that is available between the subject and the verb. So this means that when we have a singular subject, usually we have a singular verb. And when we have a plural subject, we are going to have a plural verb. The window is open. Notice here in this example, the subject, the window, is singular. So it takes the verb is, which is also singular. While the second example, the subject is a plural, the windows. That's why the verb is in the plural form, are. A very important note to be taken in consideration that when we have a clause in the position of a subject, we consider it as singular. So the clause, if it comes as a subject, we are going to consider it as singular. How they got there does not concern me. Notice here, the subject, which is here a clause, how they got there. Although it contains the pronoun they, but we consider it as singular since we used the verb does, which is used with a singular subject. And the same idea is true when we have a prepositional phrase or a phrase that is considered within the position of a subject, other than the nominal phrases, of course. So when we have such types of phrases as a subject, we are going to consider them as singular. For example, after the exams is the time to relax. After the exams, notice here we have the word exams. However, we considered it as singular. After the exams is the time to relax. Now, if we have a nominal relative clause as a subject, how do we consider this? When we have a nominal relative clause, a clause that is starting with what, who, etc., these clauses, since they are nominal, so they are equal to the noun, we consider them as singular, or we can use them as plural. So we have two options with them. What were once human dwellings are or is now nothing but piles of rubble. So as we mentioned here, we can consider it as singular, so we use the verb is in this case for this example, or we can consider it as a plural, so we use are for this example. Now we come to the idea of notional concord and the proximity. The notional concord refers to the agreement of the verb with the subject according to the idea of number rather than the actual presence of the grammatical marker for that idea. So what do we mean by this? The idea of notional concord is applied when we have what we call them as collective nouns. The collective nouns are the nouns that are plural on the level of concept, but they are singular grammatically. Let us take this example. The government have broken all their promises. Now, if we take the noun government, it is grammatically singular because it does not have the S plural. However, if we consider the meaning of this noun, we would think that the government contains different people and institutions. It is not only a single unit. That is why here we considered it as a plural notionally on the level of meaning rather than grammatical one. So the government have broken all their promises. We have a plural verb here because the subject is considered as a plural notionally on the level of notion, on the level of meaning. The idea of a proximity denotes the agreement of the verb with whatever nouns or pronoun closely precede it, sometimes in a preference to agreement with the head word of the subject. Proximity is applied when we have the subject containing more than one noun or a pronoun or nominal element. So what do? Is that we consider the word or the noun or the nominal word that is close to the verb. We consider it as the leader of that subject. So if this nominal word is plural, we are going to consider the verb as a plural. And if it is singular, we are going to consider it as, the verb is going to be considered as singular. No one except his own supporters. Notice here, this subject contains two different nominal elements. No one, which is singular, and supporters, which is a plural. So here we come to apply the idea of a proximity. So since the word supporters is closer to the verb than the word or the nominal element no one, we are going to consider the verb as a plural. So we use the verb agree, which is here used with plural subjects rather than singular. We come again to the idea of collective nouns. Previously in this lecture, we mentioned the term collective nouns. So here we have some notes concerning the collective nouns. In British English, collective nouns are notionally plural, but grammatically singular. And that's why, obeying the notional Concord, we have the following examples in which the Americans usually use the singular Concord. So here, the audience were enjoying every minute of it. The audience were enjoying every minute of it. Here, since we have a collective noun as a subject, which is the word audience, we consider the verb here as plural because we applied the idea of notional concord. So here we considered the subject as a plural. That is why we used a plural verb. The most decisive element in deciding whether we consider the subject, which is a collective noun, if we consider the collective noun as singular or a plural, is that if we look at this collective noun as undivided unit, one massive unit, so we are going to consider it as singular. But if we considered it as a collection of individuals, so we are going to consider it as a plural. Notice the following two examples. The team has won the match. In this example, the idea of winning a match for a team, usually the team as a whole, as a unit, is considered as the winner of the match. That is why we considered here the subject as one unit, and we used for that a singular verb, has. On the contrary, in the second example, the team are celebrating. So in this example, we notice that the idea of celebration, it has different types, different forms, and could be done in different ways by different people. So in this way, as if to say that every player within the team was celebrating in his own way. That's why we considered the collective noun team as a plural here. So we said the team are celebrating. Thank you very much and see you next lecture. Bye.